Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the second episode of the Hubdate. As you can see, I have a special guest for you guys this week. He is Mr. Stealth himself. He does a bit of casting over here in the EU side of things. You may know of him. He did actually cast at the Gfinity Open that took place the weekend just gone. That's why he's going to be on. As you can see on my left, I think it is. You can see the topics we'll be talking about today. We have the Gfinity Open to start things off. Stealth, obviously, at the event. He's going to be able to give us some in-depth analysis of what actually happened. Then we're going to go on to talk about DLC in competitive Call of Duty. We actually have a special guest coming on later for that. Hopefully he can get on for that. And then we're going to finish off by talking about orgs in just the competitive Call of Duty and just the impact they're having and whether or not they're a good or bad thing. And then we're going to involve some of your tweets and kind of opinions as well. Obviously, if you have any opinions on the show or you interact, with anything we're saying, do use that hashtag. You can see it at the top of your screen. It is the Hubdate. Tweet us and we will listen to what you say. But obviously, the Gfinity Open, you were there. What was your overall impressions of the event?
It was something else, really. Obviously, my first event was the Amateur Pro event that was back in February, so yeah. That's all I really knew going into this event. But the production side of things were just mind-blowing. Like, the amount of work, the amount of effort that those guys have gone in to give the fans an exceptionally amazing esports arena and production is incredible. Like, hats off to them for what they pulled off.
Awesome. Obviously, it took place over Saturday and Sunday. Sorry. Obviously,
yep.
We would normally see an event take place kind of Friday through Sunday, but they did it a bit differently. And obviously, it's a bit different in the sense as well that on the Saturday it was held in one place, and then on the Sunday it was held in another. I don't know if you want to shed a bit of light on that.
Yeah, I think the reason why it was done is because with the esports arena there are only 2 stages.
Okay.
And with the amount of teams attending, there needed to be multiple games going on at any one time. So they had 4 stations going on at the ILIC Conference Center.
Yeah.
Literally 5 minutes around the corner from the arena.
Okay, so it was literally like a little commute, and then you were there.
Yeah.
Okay,
basically.
Awesome. And then obviously the Gfinity Arena. I mean, I haven't actually got to go there myself. I was actually planning to attend this weekend, but plans didn't come through as they were meant to. And it looks just so awesome. Like, just for spectators in general, it looks like such a good kind of venue. Obviously, it's about 500 seat capacity, I think it is.
Yeah, 600.
What was it like casting there? What was like the atmosphere like, and just the crowd in general? Yeah,
it was quite amazing, if I'm honest. It was quite surreal. You walk into the cinema to begin with, and it's just normal cinema, and you're walking down to where you usually hand your tickets in, and you go to the screens. The first thing you notice is the big Gfinity sign on your left-hand side. You're like, all right, amazing. Then you see that where they've got like the menu of the the drinks and the food and stuff. They've got Gfinity branded food and drinks and everything.
No way.
Bundles and everything. I was like, all right, this is starting to get a little bit cool now. And then you walk around the corner, and there you have it. On your left-hand side, you go down this little corridor bit, and you go to the players' lounge, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then you can see the challenger stage, which is the secondary stage, the main stage, and then behind that is the press room.
Awesome.
Which is amazing.
So obviously they're kind of, I don't really use the word copying, but they've kind of got something similar to the MLG formatting over at their Columbus arena, in the sense that you've got player lounge, and you've got like the overall spectator area. I mean, obviously you casting, you probably had kind of VIP access to all kind of areas. So
maybe a little.
Was that a pretty cool thing to have?
Oh, it was something else. I've never had to have makeup before.
You had makeup?
I had to get it done, so my face didn't look so shiny in front of the camera.
Okay, I hear you.
It's amazing. Genuinely was amazing. One of the best experiences I've ever had to do in my life, and I just want to be back there right now. Awesome.
Well, obviously, if you didn't already know, guys, Epsilon did end up taking home the victory. Not really too surprising, I guess. After their recent form, I think they pretty much won every major EU LAN, apart from, I think, like, we're probably all going all the way back to like last year's EU regionals when obviously TCM won it. But would you say that TCM not being in the mix has kind of dramatically changed the competition, because obviously now, I think it was Aware that we're in the final, so we're seeing a new team in the final for the first time in a long time, because it's traditionally always been TCM and Epsilon. So does that kind of give players more of an incentive to play, to know that the other spot in the final is pretty much up for grabs? I'm not saying that Epsilon will always be in the final, but statistics state that they pretty much normally are.
Yeah, it's given a few teams a little bit more of a hope, because we wouldn't usually see the likes of Aware pushing through to that far as well. We saw Exertus place third, I believe. So you wouldn't usually see those sort of teams push on to like those first, second, third positions, but it has given those spots open up. As you said, because TCM have moved across to the North America side of things. So you are starting to see a few extra players and a few extra teams start to push on for those higher placements and possibly start making a name for themselves. So in a sense, it's a good thing that TCM have gone across, but at the same time, it's also hindered the EU community in the sense that 4 of the best players that we had over here have gone away.
Just disappeared, yeah. I mean, for me, for one, XL Esports, Joel we had on the 6 EU the other week. Awesome dude and awesome organisation. I just love what they're doing, and they were able to make it to Championship Sunday, what I thought was just awesome. They're such a, I don't want to say a small organisation, but they haven't been around for that long, and to see the progression they're making, obviously they had quite a good stint at AM2 Pro as well. So to see what they're doing is pretty awesome. But
yeah, I'm a big fan of it.
I mean, I guess the last question I wanted to ask you was, were there any real upsets? Because obviously Epsilon ended up taking it away, ended up coming second. But what happened to the likes of Infuse, because they didn't even place in the top 3?
Yeah, actually, before we go into that one, I do actually want to give a big shout out to the guys at XL.
Okay.
If they made the atmosphere at the arena for the lower bracket final and the grand final just amazing.
Yeah, them dudes are pretty awesome.
They were just shouting out. They were getting really involved. They were giving the old woos, and there's even a chant, right? Of, "We love you, Just Stealth."
They chanted you.
Yeah, they chanted me out
you're
in the
famous.
grand final.
You're
that was amazing. That's incredible. So yeah, massive shout out to those guys. It actually really made casting a lot easier.
Oh yeah, just kind of ease the nerves. But
yeah,
as I said, same question. Were there any real upsets? Obviously, Infused, I think, in my opinion, were one, but I'll let you kind of answer that question.
Yeah, Infused actually ended up going out to Hyper Games. They lost 3-0 actually in that series. Hyper Games actually had a great loser bracket run after being knocked out the first game of the Championship Sunday. So they actually made a great recovery, risking a maxi actually going pretty big for their side. And dragging them through, but unfortunately they ended up going out after. So Infuse getting dropped out was a bit of an upset. I know Marky wasn't happy about it. I mean, I wasn't happy about it either. I wanted to see them push on a little bit further. But other than that, everything was, as you would expect.
Okay, awesome. Obviously, other teams that did pretty well, Exertus placing 3rd. They're a pretty solid squad there. Infused, as you said, the upset, placing 6th. I don't think they won it. I mean, I think they were still in the prize money, if I'm not mistaken, because obviously, thankfully, we had the Sun, and a British newspaper bumped the prize pool up to 10,000 from 5,000. It was really awesome to see, an international newspaper, if you will, investing into esports. But I think that's pretty much it for Gfinity. I was watching it from home. The viewership wasn't too great, shall we say, but there was another event going on in the form of Gamers Assembly 2015. Millennium were in the final against EQ for that, just to recap it. EQ ended up taking it. They had to win 2 series because they came from the lower bracket. Ended up winning them 2, taking it. And it was also quite a significant event because the top 2 French teams from that event would go to the ESWC qualifier in the form of Meltdown Paris. The 2 teams to qualify for that were FaZe France and Infamous, if I'm not mistaken, because Millennium already have a spot at ESWC, and EQ are actually a Belgian team. But now we're going to go on to talk a little bit about DLC in competitive Call of Duty, and we actually have a special guest for this as well. Okay, so the next part of the show, we've actually brought on a special guest in the form of LXT, or Brandon. You may know him from the competitive Call of Duty community. He used to be on Orbit, if I'm not mistaken, and he's had a bit of experience as well playing overseas. I think he was at UMG Philly or Philly, yeah. So basically, in this section of the show, we're going to be talking about DLC in competitive Call of Duty, and we brought on Brandon because obviously, you can get my opinion, you can get Stealth's opinion, but we wanted an opinion from someone who actually plays the game, who is actually a pro player. So Brandon, if you want to just introduce yourself and kind of give your kind of first impressions of DLC.
I'm Brandon, also known as LXT. Used to play for all that stuff. It's alright. I don't know what to say. I just say it how it goes, mate.
And in regards to like DLC, what do you think about it? Obviously, you played in the EU qualifiers, and I don't know if it was implemented at that point, but like, do you think them putting in a DLC map right before Champs was a wise decision?
No.
Just straight up.
Whoever did it must have been smoking crack, because like, it's literally like if you think about it, if teams are sat there practicing, and you're playing for $1 million, well, the share of $1 million, and you're practicing every map, everything, and then someone decides to put a map in not long before it, and especially when the map hasn't even been fully tested and there's 100 bugs in the map. At Champs, when we were there, they showed us a video, and there was a part on Drift where it was an invisible wall for spawn on S&D. So if people tried to snipe you, they didn't get no reg, or it was an invisible wall, so they couldn't kill you, but you could shoot through it. So you have to forfeit if you were to use it, but it's just stupid. It's a really bad map. It's just awful.
I mean, I guess from a competitive standpoint, I kind of feel it was dumb to do like all the online qualifiers without it, and then do regionals with it, because obviously it's just like adding that mapping can be the difference between you qualifying and not qualifying. And obviously with the how the European qualifiers work, you only have to win one series to either get knocked out or win even, and then get your place at Con Champs. So I definitely feel like it's something that was dumb. I mean, what do you think about it, JUSTSTEALTH?
I hate it. Genuinely, I strongly hate it. As soon as it was announced, I expressed my hate for it. It was stupid. Like, the amount of time that people are putting into learning the maps inside out, and then 2 weeks before, they're throwing you a curveball by saying, here, use this map, because you're going to need to know it inside out. There's not enough time, okay? Nobody has the amount of time to be able to sit down and just grind it, except for the North Americans, of course, because they're, salaried in gaming houses and everything. It's ridiculous. Luckily, I didn't see it much, actually. I think I only saw it like 3 or 4 times being used, but
it wasn't used too much. I think it was used in like the losers bracket, final, Champs, and a couple of others. But I mean, I guess the biggest problem is the fact that obviously the time they put it in. And the next question to ask is whether or not we could ever see DLC properly implemented in the sense of like after an event and then leading up to like the next season or whatever.
Well, you can obviously, because like if you look at other games, like not just like if you look at other games like Counter-Strike and stuff, they bring other maps in and
exactly.
stuff, but all those maps are properly like looked at and stuff. Like you see all this DLC stuff, this is like the makers COD and stuff, everything who will like put all these maps in and all this shit, It isn't like get tested by competitive plays and stuff, so it's not made really for competitive, so it's just a hit or miss. Like some maps could be good, like in the DLC. I think that urban map looks really good. Like I think that'd be good and competitive. But like you see, like maps like Drift and stuff, they're not for competitive players. The reason why they're put into COD Champs is so they can showcase the maps and everyone can see them. It's all selfish. It's not to do for competitive. It's just to do for them.
Yeah. So would you say the kind of approach that Activision and Sledgehammer Games are going with is kind of just very orientated around themselves and about kind of making people, I guess, buy the DLC? Because obviously, if they really wanted to do this properly, they should have liaised with the players, with organisations like, Gfinity, MLG to actually make it a map that was very viable. And I guess you feel like they haven't done that.
Well, to be honest with you, it's a bit of a con, because if you think about it this way, you get told you haven't played Drift like a week or 2 before COD Champs, and you sat there like, what's going on? Then even though it may not be a lot to some people, you still got to pay for the DLC. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, indeed.
And then it's just and then everyone's got to buy it. Everyone's got to play it at LAN. It might be a map that's not even played again. It's made you buy the map. Do you know what I mean? Pay money for it, and then they don't even put none of that money for the DLC in the prize pool. Do you know what I mean? If you look at like games like Dota and stuff, all stuff that's bought in the game, like League of Legends, for example, when you buy like skins, all that bollocks. In Dota, it's all put in the prize pool, and they have massive, prizes and shit. The prize fund pools are just a lot bigger. Don't see that in COD though. But
so, if we are to see DLC in competitive, I don't know if you want to add to this stuff. Would you say that we want DLC? Well, we don't necessarily want it, but if it is to be implemented, we kind of want something in return in the sense of microtransactions going towards a prize pool.
Well, the way I see it is, if DLC is coming in, it needs to be built specifically for esports. Okay, the maps need to be built exactly as they, to be perfect for the esports scene. Otherwise, what's the point in having them in? Is stupid. And I would like to see the percentage of the money, if it is forced upon us, to go towards the prize pot, because it makes sense, because we're having to fork out this money to download and play the map and learn the map. I mean, I actually didn't even buy the DLC at all, so
yeah.
I'm glad that I didn't actually have to cast over it, and I'm glad I don't have to at any point. But if they do decide to put in another map into the rotation from the new DLC that was just released, then I think I might be just throwing a few fists.
So do you think the organisations may potentially kind of revolt against this? Like, not maybe the major organisations, but small organisations. Do you think they may take Drift out of the rotation for the sake of pro players and stuff?
Oh, they will.
They can, but they shouldn't, because if you look at all the big events and stuff, they're all sponsored by and run by Activision, Sledgehammer, and they put money into it, innit? So if they're not using stuff for using their sources and all that shit, then it isn't going to go well. Do you know what I mean? You look at Gfinity, like regionals, they hosted it and stuff. Do you know what I mean? They can't just go quit, we're not using these maps, so
I mean,
because they won't be happy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to be honest with you, like, you don't even have a say. You can't even do nothing about it. It's up to them what they want to do. If I'm honest, they say, "Listen, you're playing this map. You're playing it."
Yeah, totally. Obviously, I think the biggest thing is they want to be on the good side of developers and Activision, etc., etc. I mean, we could talk about the whole 18+ thing with Gfinity, but we're not going to. But so, I mean, going forward, I guess the last question to ask is, in terms of DLC, what do you think is the best approach to implementing it into Call of Duty Esports? Because it's apparent that it's a viable option. It's something that's been discussed in many titles. But what would be the ideal scenario? What kind of processes does it need to go through? What kind of organisations and communities and parties do need to be involved in the decision making?
Well, for me, MLG need to be involved for a start. And so do quite a few pro players to be able to decide what actually happens. You can't just be creating a map and just throwing it at us and saying that's it, that's what you're having, because they don't exactly know what we want or what we need as esports players and commentators and enthusiasts. So everyone really needs to be involved behind the development process before the map even gets decided to be brought in.
What about you, LXT?
They need to do stuff like, for example, when people bring games out and they do like betas, testers and stuff.
Okay.
They need to get all teams and stuff, like they need to do something where like all teams get to have a go with the map, or maybe some sort of downloadable content that's only exclusive to pro players, so they can test the maps and see if they're gonna fucking go well. Do you know what I mean, with competitive and stuff? Otherwise, it just isn't worth it.
So I think do we all agree that DLC is a viable option for competitive Call of Duty?
It can be, if it's done correctly.
Okay. Well, thank you for LXT for coming on and giving an opinion of a pro player. It's nice to get the opinion of someone who's actually playing the game rather than us who's just kind of spectating it, I guess. We're going to move on now to talk about organisations in the community, so we'll be right back in a sec. So for the last part of the show, we're going to be talking about organisations in the community. This is mainly kind of focused on, not the big organisations, we all know them, the likes of, Epsilon, Millennium, Vitality, we could go on forever, but more minuscule organisations and kind of the impact they're having in competitive Call of Duty. And we obviously asked you to let us know what you think using the hashtag the Hubdate. As I said at the start of the show, if you've got any opinions on anything we've said, anything to do with DLC and the opinions that LXT gave us, do use that hashtag on Twitter. We will read every comment, we promise. But in terms of organisations in the community, I guess I don't know what you're doing, Stealth, but
I don't even know myself.
What do you think about the more amateur organisations, the organisations that pick up teams for events that place maybe, top 16, maybe top 8 if they're lucky, are they a good thing? Does lack of experience sometimes result in a bad result, or, bad kind of, what am I trying to say here? I guess, does the lack of experience that some of these organizations have, you know, that are amateur and just starting out, you know, not dealing with players correctly, is that having a kind of negative impact on players in the community?
Well, from experience, I don't know if you know, but I used to own an organization.
Okay, I did not know that.
I used to actually own two. I actually started off a year ago owning a small one called Gambit, which actually went bad.
Okay.
And then after that, I actually went on to own Resurgent Esports. I actually did that up until last October, and from my experience, it doesn't, you know, take away anything from the players. If anything, it gives them more of an opportunity and more of a chance to prove themselves.
Okay.
The fact that so many organizations are now popping up kind of shows that the EU scene is kind of growing in a sense. But at the same time, too many organizations, you know, are offering all these things to other players and other like potential sponsors that it kind of just waters down a lot of, you know, the talent, as you would.
Yeah.
A lot of players expect far too much far too soon, and with them joining organizations so early on by teaming, it kind of, you know, takes away from the fact that nobody really wants to work for anything. So in a sense, I like that there are a lot of organizations popping up. At the same time, I don't, as I think teams should be just going to events as teams. They shouldn't be like, you know, focusing on, oh, we need an organization to represent. No, represent yourselves and then get spotted by the talent of the organization.
Because I mean, ultimately, if you do well at LAN, you're going to be noticed by, you know, not necessarily the biggest organizations, but by organizations in general. And I totally agree with you. I think it's a double-bladed sword. You know, at one point, on one side even, you know, you've got organizations that are willing to help you out, you know, grow your brand, help you maybe with expenses and going to events. But on the other side, you know, you've got players that are joining orgs for the sake of it, if you like, because they feel like they have to, and expecting this, that, and the other. Well, they're not going to get, because these organisations aren't made for money. So this kind of spirals into the first comment that we got from someone tweeting out the Hubdate in regards to this conversation. It's coming in from @BestWhenGaming, lovely little @ then. He says. It can be a good and bad thing with so many organisations. It's hard for orgs to make it big, but the small amount you could, I can't even read this, but with a small amount you couldn't get on an org. Okay, I don't know what that is meant to be. Make it big, but with a small amount you couldn't get a big org. What? I don't know what that means, but I think the dude is basically referring to the fact that with so many organisations, it's hard to make it big. And then I think he's referring to, when he says the small amount, I think he's saying only a small amount of organisations are actually high profile, should we say. So from that aspect, would you say that it's a hard kind of transition from being, you know, an amateur player to working your way up? Or would you say the amount of orgs that are out there is a good thing for kind of getting your name out there?
It's a good way in a sense, but I think you need to be doing it yourself, really. You need to be working hard to get your own name out there. Just, you know, putting yourself out, making yourself a name by streaming, doing your own YouTube channel, you know, making a name for yourself at LAN. As I said, you don't need an organization to really do that. The organization does definitely help in a sense, but too early on in your career, and it won't really help you in any really way.
Interesting. Well, the next comment comes in from Cryptic IHNK. I don't know what that's meant to mean. Basically saying orgs are better than pickup squads, but they have to be ran intelligently or they're utterly pointless. What, you know, kind of adds to what we're talking about. Obviously, you know, you don't want to join an organization for the sake of it, for the sake of just being on an organization and saying, oh, I'm represented by this, because as you say, you know, if you go to a LAN with a pickup squad that has potential and is good, obviously, if you do well, you're going to get noticed by orgs that potentially are better than the organisation that you're on. And I think sometimes people just join orgs as this person says, for the sake of it. But what I kind of like about organisations is it kind of gives you the drive to get better, because obviously being on an organization, you've always got that thought in the back of your head of potentially being dropped. You know, Call of Duty as an esport, we see so many roster changes because it's ever changing, and you know everyone wants success on the doorstep, but it doesn't happen. So therefore, a lot of the time we see roster changes for teams to get better, for them to pick up better players. So, would you say organizations help teams, not teams, but players to maybe try harder and have more of an incentive?
Oh, certainly. I mean, everyone has a fear of someone higher up than them looking down upon them and thinking, you're not good enough, get out of my organization. So it certainly helps them to improve themselves, but at the same time, it kind of gives them a bit more of a reason to slack off a little, because they feel that, okay, I'm in an organization, I don't need to do as much.
Okay, so it works both ways in a way you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Next comment comes in from Mr. Tricks. He's basically stating, he says, it's fine for older players to start orgs as they're a bit wiser, but the young org starters really have no clue what. I mean, I guess you can...
Disagree with that one.
I was going to say, can you give some shed some light on this? Because obviously, as you said, you had 2 orgs about, less than a year ago. So from your instance, what was it like running them, and kind of what troubles did you have?
Obviously, the troubles that I had was I was still quite new to esports in itself. I was still trying to figure things out. So I was 22. Yeah, 22 when I started doing that. So quite young in a sense. I didn't really know too much about business and marketing. I didn't really have the connections that I have now either. So that was always going to be a bit of a struggle for me to, build a brand as it was. But I, made the most of my opportunities. I learned a lot. I actually had a little bit of help from Prof Ollie as well, or Prof Acid.
Okay, yeah.
So he helped me a little bit. And also did Kieran as well, or Red Devil, who used to be part of tech.
Okay.
But it is not about the age of,
Yeah, I think it's
the
more
person when they start your
Would you
organization.
say it's more about like experience, and like obviously if you have that experience of working in an organization, not even like managerial, just working in it, you get to know the gist of what goes on a daily basis. Would you say that would help you as an org owner?
In a sense, yes. I think it's more the maturity and how much you're willing to put in. A lot of people don't understand that running an organization does take a lot of time and a lot of effort. You're not going to expect everything to happen within the first couple of months.
Yeah.
It does take a lot of time to build up anything. I mean, you look at Ultimate Gaming, they didn't just overnight just click like that. They were massive. They built and built and built a brand upon it.
I mean,
so if you're going to put that time and effort in, then yes, expect that organization to grow.
I think a good example of that is what you said about Prof Ollie or Prof Acid. Obviously, with the Prophecy lineup, he's had squads over in the UK and abroad, and now Prophecy have a league sport. They seem to be doing pretty well, and he's been at it for ages. He's had teams through a lot of Call of Duty titles. So I can't remember how far it goes back, but a lot. So from that instance, obviously, it's something that takes time, as you said. Next comment though is coming in from Homeboy Slays or Chris. He's basically talking about organisations being bad. He says many of these orgs, especially ones that I've dealt with, lie about the benefits they give to players. So obviously this is talking about these orgs trying to lure players in with things they can't actually offer them. I don't know if you've had any experience of this. I'm not too informed, but obviously that's kind of the bad side of things, because obviously orgs are going to, some will at least, say stuff that they're going to give you that they actually won't.
Yeah, I've seen a few organisations that actually do this, saying that they've been sponsored by Monster and Astro Gaming and Scuff, when they're not really. They bought out their followers as well to make it look like they're more popular, to entice the bigger names to come in. But from my experience, I never lied to any of my players. I just said straight to them, look, I can't do anything for you right now, but I can help you, grow in a sense.
Yeah.
And that's what I think people need to understand, is that if you're looking to get these big benefits out of it, when you've not been to a LAN event or you've not really placed in the top 8, you've got to start to wonder, why are they offering it to you in the first place?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it too good to be true?
I think you have to, as you say, be realistic. If you've never gone to a LAN before, you cannot expect for all your travels to be paid for, to rock up in a limo. It's not going to happen, basically. I totally agree with what you say. There are some organisations out there to kind of lure you in when they don't really give you anything in return. But a lot of the times, I kind of feel, orgs, orgs mean well, you know, they're in this, a lot of them, you know, a good example is what we talked about of Excel Esports, you know, they're great dudes over there, I love what they're doing, they seem to be going the right way about it, but, you know, some orgs, I think, offer things, what they think they can actually offer them, when they actually can't. But next comment is coming in from Revival Tawnies, and they're basically saying, I think it's a good thing to ascent, sorry, not see, but there is too many orgs to start, lose, and then disband and quit. So from that instance, would you say it's a lack of experience?
And it's a lack of understanding as well. As I said before, it doesn't take a month to build a brand. It takes a lot of time and effort. Yeah. And a lot of teams don't want to be put in this. They expect results instantly. And that's what really annoys me, that they just want to think, okay, I'll pick up a team, they're going to win possibly one online tournament, and I want to be within the money right now. Organizations aren't about the money. Okay, they start up because they enjoy the esports, and they want to help the community grow, and they want to help players. If you're in it for the money, you're in it for the wrong reasons. Yeah, I totally agree.
Just add to that, Revival Tawnies go on to say, also too many orgs that think they are better, that they are way better, than they are, when they have nothing to give back. Back then, what? Okay, that doesn't fully make sense, but I think this is referring to orgs getting an ego, I guess you could say. You know, as you say, if they win one online tournament, they think they're the best team there. You know, maybe if they, because I mean, you know, we all know that online is different to what we see on LAN, and I think winning an online tournament doesn't necessarily mean that you're a top team.
Oh no, of course not. I won an online tournament once.
Back in the day.
Quite a spectacle. It was something else. Almost beat TCM actually back in Ghosts, which was my highlight.
Okay, interesting. Next comment is coming in from SE7_reacts. They basically want to say players starting orgs isn't a bad thing, as some can be very knowledgeable and professional. And this, I think, relates totally to Tommy, because obviously we all know that Tommy is in relations with Vitali in starting a team called Storm. What's your kind of opinions on that?
I think this was more aimed towards, you know, you're looking at your Excel, because they are very, very knowledgeable and very professional. Okay. They come actually from a big background. They've been actually in a university, and I think...
But in terms of players...
do marketing and everything. The players, again, some of them can be knowledgeable and very professional, depending on where you're looking. A lot of the younger ones develop a massive ego, and you know, they're still very childish and immature in a sense, so it can hinder your organization's image at a time. Definitely. But if you bring in the right players and with the right attitude, it can certainly help you.
Interesting. Just to add to that, I mean, I think you summed it up quite well. You know, obviously, from a player's standpoint, they play the game and they deal with orgs on a daily basis if they've, you know, got somewhere in their career. So they'll know kind of what it takes, or some of them will, etc. And I think the only players that realistically are wanting to start up an organisation are ones that are, you know, really passionate, know a lot about it. Because I think players aren't that stupid to just start up an organisation and, you know, like we say, you know, want success in the first day. So from that instance, I definitely think that the players that do start up are probably have a lot of knowledge of what it takes to kind of run an organisation, and obviously as well, them starting an organisation with the profile they have can help to bring on players that maybe another organisation that's just starting up would not get.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, next comment is coming in from Cryptic Sloths. They've got two comments. First comment is, orgs are good, but they need to be ran by someone who isn't delusional. Too many fail too often. If orgs work, then it can be great. And then the second comment is, the comment definitely benefits there. Oh, I don't even know what this is saying.
I think it's the community definitely benefits from orgs and teams representing their org /act professional, often win-lose together, no pickups.
Okay, so the first comment is kind of referring to, obviously, a lot of organisations start out and crumble. I think we've already kind of touched on that, but what do you think about the second comment?
The community definitely benefits from orgs and teams representing an org. Yeah, in a sense, this is basically, as it goes back again, I agree that the community can definitely benefit from more organisations, especially if they are professional, because, you know, it helps the community look more professional in a sense.
I definitely feel like it's kind of widening the grassroots. Like from a sporting background, grassroots is imperative to kind of making the pool of athletes at the top even bigger. And obviously, with the more organisations we get, the more players that are able to get on teams, the better it gets, I guess. So from that standpoint, I can kind of agree. But then again, I feel like some players may get screwed over from orgs offering something that they can't actually deliver. But let us know, as we say, using the hashtag the Hubdate, and we will listen to what you think. Next comment is coming from Shane12337, and then he says these orgs in quotations are often just a young kid in his room and a lot of time doing nothing in regards to representing players, etc.
Interesting.
What do you think of that?
But these orgs, as he's put it, usually it's just a young kid in his room because he's trying to do something with his passion he has for esports. It's hard to really represent players when your organization is quite a small thing. So it's trying to bring in those players that can also help represent the organization and vice versa. It's a difficult one. It is. I know you join an organization to gain a bit more exposure, but I think sometimes when they're in the grassroots, they're starting off slow and they're starting off low. Yeah. The organization kind of relies on players to gain that exposure for themselves as well. Yeah.
I mean, I definitely admire young people wanting to start out orgs. I don't think we're in any way trying to discourage you to do it because, at the end of the day, if you're passionate about esports and, you have the knowledge, I wouldn't say don't do it. I would just say just take into account the fact that it involves a lot of time and in the long run it can be successful, but you're not going to get anything in return in the shortfall. So from that instance, I think you definitely need to be aware of that. But that's pretty much it for all the comments. I think we can both agree that orgs in the community, just amateur teams and everything, are definitely a good thing if they are set up properly and the right people are behind the organisation that know about esports and know how to run an organisation. And I think at the end of the day, it always has to be player focused. The orgs can't be selfish and think about themselves. As we say, you have to be in it for the long run. You can't expect to go to a LAN and place in the money because the reality is this day and age it doesn't happen. It may have happened, a couple of Call of Duty titles ago when the scene wasn't as big, but the stage we're at now where we're seeing, Gfinity had 30 teams, so out of that only 6 are actually going to place in the money. So that's only 1/5 if I'm right with my maths. So from that instance, you have to realise it from that standpoint. What are your last words on this topic?
If you're thinking about starting up your own organization, as we said before, think about how you're going to do it. Don't just go all guns blazing into it. Go plan it. Think about where you want to go in the future and how you're going to be able to brand it, brand yourself and the organization itself. And think about the players that you're bringing in. Don't just hop on with the first player that says he wants to join. Look around as well and see if there are a wealth of talent out there at the minute. There are loads of free agents, a lot of teams that deserve deserve an organization and deserve your time and effort.
Okay, so last kind of word of wisdom from Stealth himself. What would be the best advice for a player that is currently a free agent? They don't really know anyone in the community. They want to get into competitive Call of Duty. What would you say to them?
There's a lot of 8s lobbies going on. Play some 8s if you can. Just get your name out there a little bit. Maybe even just start doing a little bit of YouTube, recording yourself playing if you've got pretty good at it. Start familiarizing yourself as well with the maps, the rotations, a few pro players. Start learning from them, and just get yourself involved.
Yeah, I echo what you said. I think the other thing to add to that is, once you find a team, your best practice is on LAN. That's when you get your recognition. So, you may be winning online tournaments. That's pretty good, all done and said. But where you get recognised and kind of get known as a good, talented player is on LAN, because that's where you have a neutral host, obviously, or the best to our ability we do. And obviously, that's where you can perform, because obviously we all know that online is very risky and very temperamental, and your connection can kind of make you better than you seem, should we say. So from that instance, you know, that is pretty much all our words of wisdom. Thank you to Stealth. You've been awesome. Thank you for coming on the show. This is pretty much going to do it for this episode, guys. Obviously, do let us know with the hashtag #TheHubDate what you thought of the show. Let us know suggestions for next week's ideas and suggestions for topics that we can talk about. But I've been Tommy. This has been Stealth. We will see you later. Do leave this video a like if you did enjoy it, and do subscribe to the Esports Hub. They're an awesome organisation, and we'll see you next time.